The instant she heard that Chia Chang had sent for Pao Yu and that he had not come back during the whole day, she felt very distressed on his account. After supper, the news of Pao Yu's return reached her, and she keenly longed to see him and ask him what was up. Step by step, she trudged along when, espying Pao Che going into Pao Yu's garden, she herself followed close in her track. But on their arrival at the Sin Fong Bridge, she caught sight of the various kinds of waterfowl bathing together in the pond, and although unable to discriminate the numerous species, her gaze became so transfixed by their respective variegated and bright plumage and by their exceptional beauty that she halted, and it was after she had spent some considerable time in admiring them that she repaired at last to the Ai Hung court. The gate was already closed. Dai Yu, however, lost no time in knocking, but Qing Wen and Pi Han had, who would have thought it, been having a tiff and were in a captious mood. So upon unawares seeing Pao Che step on the scene, Qing Wen at once visited her resentment upon Pao Che. She was just standing in the court giving vent to her wrongs, shouting, "You're always running over and seating yourself here, whether you've got good reason for doing so or not. And there's no sleep for us at the third watch, the middle of the night though it be," when all of a sudden she heard someone else calling at the door. Qing Wen was the more moved to anger. Without even asking who it was, she rapidly bawled out, "They've all gone to sleep, you'd better come tomorrow." Lin Diu Yu was well aware of the natural peculiarities of the waiting maids, and of their habit of playing practical jokes upon each other. So fearing that the girl in the inner room had failed to recognize her voice, and had refused to open under the misconception that it was some other servant girl, she gave a second shout in a higher pitch. She cried, "It's I! Don't you yet open the gate?" Qing Wen, as it happened, did not still distinguish her voice, and in an irritable strain, she rejoined, "It's no matter who you may be. Mr. Secundus has given orders that no one at all should be allowed in." As these words reached Lin Dayu's ears, she was unwittingly overcome with indignation at being left standing outside. But on the point of raising her voice to ask her a few things and to start a quarrel with her, albeit, she argued mentally, "I can call this my aunt's house, and it should just be as if it were my own. It's all, after all, a strange place. And now that my father and mother are both dead, and that I am left with no one to rely on, I have for the present to depend on her family for a home. So were I now to give way to a regular fit of anger with her, I'll really get no good out of it." While indulging reflection, tears trickled from her eyes. But just as she was feeling unable to retrace her steps, and unable to remain standing any longer, and quite at a loss what to do, she overheard the sound of jocular language inside, and listening carefully, she discovered that it was indeed Pao Yu and Pao Che. Lin Dayu waxed more wroth. After much thought and cogitation, the incidents of the morning flashed unawares through her memory. It must, in fact, be because Pao Yu is angry with me for having explained to him the true reasons. But why did I ever go and tell you? You should, however, have made inquiries before you lost your temper to such an extent as to refuse to let me in today. But is it likely that we shall not by and by meet face to face again? The more she gave way to thought, the more she felt wounded and agitated, and without heeding the moss, laden with cold dew, the path covered with vegetation, and the chilly blasts of wind, she lingered all alone under the shadow of the bushes at the corner of the wall, so thoroughly sad and dejected that she broke forth into sobs. Lin Dayu was indeed endowed with exceptional beauty, and with charms rarely met with in the world. So as soon as she suddenly melted into tears, and the birds and rooks roosting on the neighboring willow boughs and branches of shrubs caught the sound of her plaintive tones, They all one and all fell into a most terrific flutter, and taking to their wings, they flew away to distant recesses. So little were they able to listen with equanimity to such accents. But the spirits of the flowers were at the time silent and devoid of feeling. The birds were plunged in dreams and in a state of stupor. So why did they start? A stanza aptly assigns the reason. Pin-er's mental talents and looks must in the world be rare. Alone, clasped in a subtle mel, she quits her maiden room. The sound of but one single sob scarcely dies away, and drooping flowers cover the ground, and birds fly in dismay. Lin Dai-yu was sobbing in her solitude, when a creaking noise struck her ear, and the door of the court was flung open. Who came out is not yet ascertained, but reader, should you wish to know, the next chapter will explain. In the Teachway Pavilion, Pao Che diverts herself with the multicolored butterflies. Over the mound, where the flowers had been interred, Dai-yu bewails their withered bloom. Lin Dai-yu, we must explain, in taking up the thread of our narrative, was disconsolately bathed in tears, when her ear was suddenly attracted by the creak of the court gate, and her eyes by the appearance of Pao Che beyond the threshold. Pao Yu, his son, and a whole posse of inmates then walked out. She felt inclined to go up to Pao Yu and ask him a question, but dreading that if she made any inquiries in the presence of such a company, Pao Yu would be put to the blush and placed in an awkward position, she slipped aside and allowed Pao Che to prosecute her way.